No more creative writing groans. Lesson 8. Objective narrative. Today you are going to work on writing a narrative, and this particular narrative is going to be the object is the main character. It is sometimes called the it narrative or the object narrative. What is it? Well, first of all, it's a story. That's what narratives are. They're stories. And in this situation, it is a fantasy because the object is the main character telling the story as seen through their eyes. Because the object is just that, an object, it can't be the narrator. So that's the part that would make it fantasy. There is a setting, it has a plot, and it has characters, both protagonist and antagonist. A protagonist character is usually the hero. That's what that is, the hero, the good character. The antagonists are the ones that are causing the problem. In a narrative, we have characters. Characters are the people, animals, or other beings that help the story move along. They are what the whole story is about. So, an important pre-writing step is to determine who the characters will be and describe them. And then also think about how they will act in the story. Maybe some of these books here you have read before. There's Harry Potter. Up at the top is The Black Stallion, Judy Moody, The Babysitter's Club, Black Beauty, Island of the Blue Dolphins. All have different characters. Black Beauty actually has the animal as a character. Black Beauty is a horse, and so is the Black Stallion. Black Stallion also has a little boy that's a character. In the Island of the Blue Dolphins, it's a young girl. And anyway, think about these characters in these stories. Are they strong? Are they courageous? Are they problem solvers? Are they funny? Are they serious? In a narrative, you need a setting. Now, this includes a place and time. It may be during a specific time of year, or maybe it's hundreds of years ago. Whatever it is, wherever it is, whenever it is, the setting will help the reader feel like they are there as part of the story. Maybe it's in this beautiful castle with the mist all around, or at the beach where the sun's shining down, or in the mountains, or at Disney World. Wherever the setting is that you choose, it goes with the story, and it helps the reader to be able to visualize more of the story by knowing where the setting takes place. A narrative must have a plot. Now, this is the part that can be sometimes the most difficult. The plot of the story involves a problem that the character must address or a main event that they need to navigate. Outline the events of your story and how they unfold. Now, this is how it starts, the setup. That means you're going to tell who the characters are and what they are setting, where they are setting, and what they do. So you're just setting the scene with the characters in the beginning that we are going to meet right away. The inciting incident, an incident that happens that causes a problem for the main character. This problem forces them to want to try to solve it. So somewhere, now some narratives can have several problems for the main character to solve. The events are where they try to solve it, and sometimes they will fail. Not always will you have the character fail, but sometimes they do. They can try and fail, however many times before they finally get it. The climax is the dramatic point of overcoming or solving problems. So think of it as a big hill to climb, and then you're coming back down. You've got the character and the settings down here, and you start working up the hill, and then the problem starts to appear in the story. and they're having to deal with the problem, and they may try several different ways, and then you get right to the top. That's the climax. That's where finally it's the dramatic moment of overcoming or solving the problem that your character is facing. And then downhill right after that is just the result, which is wrapping up loose ends and showing positive consequences of the climax. And the very last one is the resolution, happy or hopeful ending. So over here is the characters and the setup. And then as it's being set up, it starts to climb. And soon the character will face a problem. And then as it gets to the very top, they're going to be trying to solve it, the events, which are the different ways. Sometimes, like I said, it may only take one time. And then at the very top, that's the climax. It's when everything is solved and it worked. And then it's a downhill ride from there. All right, that is the basics of a narrative. Now, when you have a narrative, it must have a beginning that grabs the reader's attention. So you should plan interesting ways to start your narrative. It could be the typical way, which is it was late afternoon in October, or it was very early Christmas morning. You could do an action, and that's where the main character is doing something. Perhaps the character is just finishing eating and having to run out the door to try to catch the school bus. So it might be something like this. I grabbed the pancake, shoved it into my mouth as I lunged for the door with my backpack and coat. I bolted out of the house and raced across the wet lawn where the sprinklers were on. And then the bus was just starting to take off as I yelled for it to stop. It stopped, and I was able to get on the bus. Now, that would have been an action, okay? A dialogue is when characters are talking back and forth. It could be, Johnny, get down here right now, Dad bellowed. His voice sounded far away. Dad, I hollered. Where are you? I squinted through the screen door but couldn't see him. So you can just start right off from the very top, from the very beginning, them talking, the dialogue. Reaction, a character thinking. And this could be just what's going on in the character's mind, something that maybe I couldn't imagine why I was being shaken awake at 3 a.m. in the morning. What was going on? What was that smell? Okay, that would be the character thinking some thoughts, wanting to know. They have some questions about what's going on around them at that moment. Shocking statement is something surprising or out of the ordinary. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is a sound associated with an action. So it could be the squeal of the brakes or tires, or it could be a sound like hiss or squish thump, squish thump went our boots as we trudged through the mud. So the sounds at the very beginning is a great beginning. Shocking statement, something surprising or out of the ordinary. So this could be just anything that would be unexpected. Okay, some shock statement. List. Like, here's an example of a shocking statement. They say he kept an 8-inch cockroach on a leash and that rats stood guard over him while he slept. Or here's another one. The alligator was walking down the hallway with a leash around its neck, and my dad was holding the leash. True story. But anyway, that would be a shocking statement. You don't expect someone to be walking an alligator down a hallway. List, a complex list of just about anything. So, an example of that could be John was a kind neighbor, a quiet neighbor, a truck driver, and man who loved pets. We saw him out mowing his grass, trimming the bushes, okay, and just on and on. Okay, and then once you've set the scene and the setting and the character analysis, the character description, you go on and tell the story of what happened. But that starts to grab the audience to, hey, let's find out more about this person. A lively description. This is that specific details that paint a vivid picture. And that is true. If you have like for example, someone who's on maybe a deserted island, they've just landed, and you want to start the story with describing the island. Everything was quiet on the sandy beach. There was no life to be seen anywhere. Parts of the broken boat were littered all up and down the beach. Okay, that's just a good lively description. I would go a little bit more into using some great adjectives. And then question, something to start readers thinking. It could be something like, what's your favorite thing to eat when it's hot outside and warm inside? So you have the reader thinking, what is my favorite thing to eat in situations like that? And then it connects that reader to the person who's writing. They can imagine what their favorite food would be. All right, so for your creative writing, I'm going to make it a little easier for you in the fact that you don't necessarily need to come up with a narrative, a story that happened to you. Today I want you to write a historical fantasy. And you are going to do it through the eyes of a non-human. Whether it's alive or not is up to you, but it's through through the eyes of a non-human. So this is an example. I'm going to show you several examples. Lewis and Clark and Me, A Dog's Tale is historical fantasy. The reason we say it's historical fantasy is because, of course, we know that the dog can't narrate. But this story, as you can see there in the middle, Lewis and Clark and Me, A Dog's Tale, is told by the dog, through the dog's eyes, what the dog witnessed. As you can see here, it's like a first person. The animal is the first person, or whatever the object is the first person telling the story. And that's what they're doing here. They're having the dog tell the story. And yes, this is a true story, and the fact that Lewis and Clark, did go on this expedition and they did have a dog, but not necessarily every single thing you hear in this story would be true because it's being told through the eyes of the dog. Here is a picture of Lewis and his dog, Newfoundland, named Seaman. A big dog there. All right, here's one of my first ones where I did this assignment, Almost to Freedom. This story is about a little slave girl and her family and how they escaped from slavery. And she stayed in one of the underground homes where they hid under the floorboards, and she had her little doll with her treasure. But one day or one night, in the middle of the night, they found out that someone was coming to get them. So they quickly had to leave before they got there. And so she forgot to take her doll. And it was too late by the time she remembered the doll because she couldn't go back to get it. So the doll just tells a story from the beginning all the way to the end of its life and what it saw. And it's a great story. And that's what I kind of got this is really the reason I got my idea for your creative writing that you're going to be doing today. Saving the Liberty Bell is the book that I'm going to use. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to think of a historical, I want you to think of a historical story, basically a true story from history. And I want you to think of an animal that might have been in that story. If you have obvious animals, go ahead and pick one of them. But if you can't think of an animal in the historic event, then you could always come up with one that you think would be fitting for your story. So, Saving the Liberty Bell, I'm just going to show you a few pictures. Um, the boy and dad, you can see it's a big family. And there's mom. They lived back in 1776, and they had the Liberty Bell. It was there in Philadelphia. And so one day, or it's actually one night, they headed out, but it was starting to get light when anyway. Okay, so they have these horses. So I decided to use this story and one of these horses as my character. Here's Philadelphia, and they find out that they need to hide all the bells because the British were coming. So hide anything you can that the British might try to melt down and make into bullets, ammunition. So their job became saving the Liberty Bell, and they had to get it to a church outside the city to hide in the floorboards there. So the way they did it is they put it there in the wagon with a soup skirt over it, and then they headed off. So I'm not going to show you any more pictures, but I am going to show you what I want you to do. When you pick a historical story and you're finding some kind of object, it does not have to be an animal that's telling this story. It can be an object. It could be, for example, if you're writing about the same time as I am, and you wanted to write about the Declaration of Independence, you could actually have the Declaration of Independence telling you its story. Okay, this is whatever you want to be telling the story, it can be. So I wanted a horse to tell this one, Saving the Liberty Bell as told by a horse from 1777. Now I'm going to read this to you, and I want you to think about the characters, the setting. The setting is in 1777, and it's in Philadelphia. And we have some characters, the boy named John Jacob Mickley. All right, here goes. I always enjoy pulling the wagon when my master and his 11-year-old boy, John Jacob Mickley, go for a ride. It is fun to walk through the countryside watching the rabbits hopping and eating clover in the window, the cows munching grass in the pastures, and the wheat fields flowing in the wind. When I find out we are going into the city of Philadelphia, I pick my feet up and trot. This movement will get us there faster. I love going into the city. Wherever we go, it is always bustling with activity. And today was no different until the great bell started clanging. Brong, brong, brong. It was an unusual time for the great bell to be ringing. I wonder why. Then all of a sudden, I heard my master yell to his boy, Redcoats, the redcoats are coming. I began to hear bells from all over the city clanging, clanging. It went on and on. I began to grow very nervous. I wanted to run, but alas, I knew my master and son may need me. Something told me to stay and be calm, for I was about to be part of something amazing, something that would be forever remembered in history. But what? I waited and tried to calm my rapidly beating heart. The regular bustling grew into a frightened frenzy. People were rushing around. I heard men yell to hide all valuables. Who were the redcoats, and why were things needing to be hidden? I felt the tension in the air grow thick. My master took me to a stable nearby so I wouldn't be so nervous. While I was grazing on some hay in my stall, I overheard my master say that at midnight, when it was the darkest, we would be moving the great bell on our wagon. Ah, so Now I want to show some pictures, and this is where storyboard that comes in. Now, before you write your story, as long as you have an idea what the plot is and you've outlined it, you could actually use the storyboard method to outline your narrative. Here I have the cover, The Saving of a Liberty Bell as Told Through the Eyes of a Horse. And so I'm just actually showing the different stages. I won't be doing all the exact words or anything like that. This is just a little outline. I'm going to make a separate video to share with you on how to do storyboard that. And I think you will really enjoy this software. Let me first show you what the rest of my pictures look. I have not finished this storyboard, just did enough to show you to help get you started. And you may want to, while you are thinking of your story, I would highly suggest looking through all the things that Storyboard that has to offer, and that might help you go through and know what you want to write on. This is what it looks like, digital storytelling. And you can just create a storyboard. I do have a classroom subscription, so I will be able to have you work on it through my classroom subscription. This is your storyboard template. Now mine says Saving the Liberty Bell, but yours, that's what where you'll put your title. Put your title right up there so that we'll know what you're going to be writing about. And then you can just kind of plan it out. Now, you don't actually have to fill in anything here. If you'd rather just look on Storyboard and just set it up this way and go ahead and start putting your storyboard together, and then you can write in your story if you want. Or you could write your story and then just break it down into the different pictures you would need. Either way would be fine, but it probably would be a little easier if you do look at Storyboard. Plan, first of all, your historical event on what you want to write about, and think about the time, the setting. You go ahead and write that in, the setting. What was the plot in your story? Obviously, in the story that I did, Saving the Liberty Bell, the plot was the bell needed to be hidden, and they were going to have to try to figure it out. What was the best thing to do to make sure that they got it where it needed to go in order that they were safe and the bell was safe? And then the climax, there was a climax, if you ever read the story, where it gets really exciting there. What they had to do, the different events that it took to get it to its destination of where it would be hidden. And then the conclusion. Remember, you start going back down that hill, so you're kind of pulling it all together, and then you have your final conclusion. I will be including a video on how to do the storyboard that, and then you will be able to start working on your narrative. This is what storyboard that looks like. I'm going to be adding you as a student, and then you'll be able to get on and do your storyboard that through my student program. And then I'll be able to see what you're doing also. So I just want to let you know you'll be getting information about that. I wanted to show you an example of what one of my students did, the French and Indian War told by a cannon. And you have to do 6 pictures. And so this is how theirs turned out, just like this. And so I thought it was pretty cool how he did that one. And another boy did this one. It looks like he just did 3 pictures, but I really want you to do 6. So there you go, your final lesson in No More Creative Writing Groans. I look forward to seeing what you come up with in your storyboard. I'm sure it will be great. Have fun learning this new program and working on your narrative. Until next time, bye-bye.